Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to the Evan Here's Culture campaign. Today we're supposed to have a very special guest, but he has yet to arrive. We've been trying to arrange this for a while, so that's kind of a...
What's up?
Hey, what's up? Ladies and gentlemen, it is Jack Callahan.
Hello.
Back on the program yet again. You know him as one of the key creative forces of Don't Look Studio.
Yeah, you could call it that.
Yes, a music video maestro and master, and I'm very excited that he is back on the show.
I'm very glad to be here.
And I hope you had fun last time when we were talking about rave death.
I did. That was fun because you disagreed with me.
Oh yes, there was a little bit of a back and forth there, which we'll see if we have this time, because today we are talking about Yves Tumor's 2018 album, Safe in the Hands of Love.
Yes, I'm pulling it up right now.
Yes, pulling it up, getting that track list. And this is a really fascinating album. This is one of the ones, much like Rave Death, where I reached out to you because I saw it on your Spotify friend activity status and thought, oh, well, Jack must like Yves Tumor. And we talked about it.
I did. When you asked me that, I was like just coming off like a really intense like obsession with Yves Tumor. So I was like,
yes,
this is my guy.
Absolutely. Well, I want to know, and I always want to know this, how did you find Yves Tumor? Because, I mean, just based on the name, that's clearly an off-the-path sort of artist.
Yeah, I found them on the 100 Gex subreddit. It was in the comments. So
what was the connection there?
I don't even remember, but it was like, yeah, I have no idea. But somebody just mentioned Yves Tumor, and I was like, that's a funny name. It was 3 a.m., so I was like, okay, let's listen to this.
Let's pop that on. And did you pop on Safe in the Hands of Love?
No,
or?
I put Heaven to a Tortured Mind on.
Okay.
And that's the album I connect to most, I think, because that was the first one, and also I just think it's my vibe more. But this album is a wonderful album also.
Yes. Heaven to a Tortured Mind, I haven't listened to it enough to know, but I did listen to it a couple times, and it might be a better album, but this is probably the album that I enjoy more. So you found it through the 100 Gex subreddit. I just want to know, what happens on the 100 Gex subreddit?
It's a lot of children. It's a lot of teenagers, I think. I'm in the wrong... Like, I don't interact with those people. Yeah. I just read what they say.
It is amazing
there's a lot of memes.
100 Gex has achieved the level of popularity that they have.
Yeah.
Because I hate them.
You hate them?
I cannot stand
Evan.
100 Gex. I listened to, when I was like, oh, I should listen to 1,000 Gex, get a sense of, everybody's talking about Gex. Makes me feel physically ill.
Yeah, that's
every
the point.
time.
That's
That's the, I don't like, that first album was only like 23 minutes or something like that, and I was really like, I don't know if I can make it through this. It's probably the only time I've ever had such a visceral, physical reaction to a group.
Yeah.
Is 100 Gex. Luckily, even though you found Yves Tumor in that subreddit, I don't feel that way at all.
Well, they're very different, yeah.
Oh, incredibly different in terms of style and what they're all about. And I gotta say, I think that my first listen of this album was probably, I think I've heard it like 5 times now, because I first listened to it when I was driving to Colorado, when we were in Colorado back in December. Mm-hmm. And it was probably the best experience with it because Yves Tumor, much like you, Jack, has made an appearance on this show before.
Really?
You might not know that. There was an ambient album called Mono No Aware, which was, it was a compilation, and they had a track on there called Limericks. And
I love that track, actually.
Oh, yeah? I didn't have any real strong feelings about that album. I did feel like, I was like, oh, that's probably the best track off of there.
It was.
But I got worried based on that I was like, oh, is this going to be an ambient album? And you had said something in the Rave Death episode. You had said that Rave Death was the first time you had ever listened to an entire ambient album.
You definitely caught me at my first time listening to Rave Death, and also probably my first time listening to an ambient album all the way through.
So that's making me feel a little bit better about this. And you listen to the first track and it's all instrumental.
And the second and third track.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, well, is he saying that he's only listened to a full ambient album because this is more like an instrumental and it's more of a soundscape. It's obviously, but I don't know. I feel this is somewhat ambient. And then the second track is instrumental for a long, long time. There's a little bit of vocalization, but I did the math. Lyrics do not happen until 4 minutes and 21 seconds into the album. And so I was getting a little like, oh, where's this going? Where's this going? And then that kicked in. I was like, okay, we're safe. We're in a safe pair of hands. We're safe in the hands of love here. And just from there, that really became just a delightful first listen because it's an album that is full of surprises.
Yeah.
You know, he's there, very cross-genre, right? There's every track is giving you something different that, you know, did not appear on the track before, and you're really going on a journey. So you've got that really experimental sound at the end, and then you're getting closer to something that's a little more not mainstream, but a little more approachable.
Yeah, the vocals definitely lead more and more as the album goes on, I think.
Yes.
Like, something that's super interesting about this album, I think, is the fact that Yves, like, is very instrumental forward and, like, mixes their vocals kind of, like, on top of each other and still under the mix. It's like, yeah, it's definitely, like, they communicate more with the instrumental than they do with their voice.
Yeah, and it starts out like really in those early tracks, it's very under the mix, and then the real turning point for me in the album is Noid.
Mm-hmm.
We get in there, and that is probably the most structurally structurally traditional song.
Well, that was a hit from the album.
That was the hit, and licking an orchid was also
I guess
sort of
that one was more
the hit as well. I don't know what was the hit. I just know Noid was the first one. I was like, all right, and then I was like, this is it, and then it's not that. It just keeps transitioning from there to all sorts of different things. We're going through some R&B. We're going through some. I don't know. I almost felt vocally. I felt like shades of Little Peep in there a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt
actually,
that or not.
Yeah.
I was sitting there. I was like, what does this remind me of? Oh, it's Little Peep. And there's rock. There's electronic.
Yeah.
There's.
It's very rock. I've always associated Yves Tumor more with rock than anything else. Even though they sample, like, all of their music is based around a sample, most of it, and like, yeah. But I always got rock first.
Yeah.
Especially in Heaven to a Tortured Mind.
Yeah, Heaven to a Tortured Mind is much is really the transition into rock star mode for Yves Tumor. But that was, you know, sort of my experience with the first listen, and, you know, all the surprises of. Then you get to hope and suffering, all those words in parentheses, and it's sort of a spoken word thing, but it's really creepy and abrasive, and you're like, okay, this is cool, and you transition into the back half. I don't know, what was your first? Obviously, you started with Heaven to a Tortured Mind, but
I said that actually, but I did watch the music video for Noid before I got into it. I was like, I'm actually not vibing with this super, like, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I listened to Heaven to a Tortured Mind, and then I came back to Safe in the Hands of Love, and then I was like, okay, I kind of get it now.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Noid is an interesting case where that was the one that I was immediately able to access, and I played it, a lot. That was the one I was returning to. But as time has gone on, it's kind of lessened in the enjoyment I get from listening to it, and probably that's just because the immediate accessibility of it. The other tracks, which were not as approachable, as I grew fonder of them, were more rewarding. Whereas Noid was lyrically really strong, though.
Definitely.
Really delves into the themes of, the sister, mother, brother, father, and the police violence that's happening in the streets, and the not wanting to become a statistic.
Yeah.
And they repeat 911 quite a bit in that song, which will be relevant to an episode later in the show. Bookmark that right there. But anyway, what were some of the tracks that really stuck out to you on this? I know I Noid that first time, and it's still a good song. And then I liked Recognizing the Enemy.
I really liked Lifetime. That was
Lifetime.
I think that's my favorite track off the whole thing. Recognizing the Enemy is really good though. I would say my top 3 are like Lifetime, maybe Recognizing the Enemy, and then Licking an Orchid.
Licking an Orchid, I never quite, obviously that is one of the hits, but I never quite got into it. Maybe it's too subdued for me.
Yeah.
I don't know, the can I take you home? It's like it's a little too repetitive and a little too subdued for me to really get into it. I don't know, what about it sort of works?
I don't know, I liked the vocal performance on it. I liked the whole mood of it. I can't really explain it. I think it just spoke to me.
Yeah, what I liked about Recognizing the Enemy is really the vocal performance of it's getting grittier and like angrier as the song goes on, and there's definitely like thematically there's very much about the internal struggle, I would say, and that in Recognizing the Enemy is themselves, and in Lifetime, which you were talking about, it's torture.
Yeah.
Torture comes up a lot in the Yves Tumor discography. I mean, why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, what I think is great about Recognizing the Enemy is it's really like an uncommon thing to say. I love feeling like disassociated from myself, which is what the track is all about. Like, I love feeling not like myself. What's the line? It's like I
can't recognize myself. I don't know what the exact.
I love not being able to recognize myself. It's like the thing that's repeated, and it's just such an interesting, like, it makes you really delve and want to listen to the rest of the lyrics and understand the song.
Yeah, to look in. There's like. I did look up a lot of the lyrics, and it's interesting because they're definitely more vibe based. There's like a lack of specificity, which is not a bad thing. They're sort of in broad-ish terms about the emotions, but there's just enough of like biting detail in there to give you a picture of who Yves Tumor is as an artist and as a person. It definitely seems like somebody who would be really interesting to hang out with.
Yeah, and
for a little bit there.
I feel like they would be really quiet. I just feel like they wouldn't be like.
Yes.
I don't know.
This album does feel like the album of somebody who gets everything out in the music.
Yeah. And actually, something I want to touch back on. You said like the lyrics are they don't delve super deep into it, but I think that's part of what makes you focus on the production and the music more, is because like there's a lot of repetition of the same thing. There's infrequent like personal detail, but the way the songs move and like iterate off of that, even when the same thing is being repeated, it's like you could feel the emotion a lot more. I think that makes it feel like very personal when they're speaking through that.
Which is interesting because it seems like they're a very mysterious figure. And the actual, like, I could not find out a lot of information about the biography or
all I know
anything
is that they
like
live in like Italy.
Like Turin or something like that.
Yeah.
It's strange. They're a strange figure. It is cool.
I respect it a lot.
Is there any like low points on the album for you? Anything that doesn't?
Let me look through it again.
There's nothing on there where I'm like, ugh, I want to skip that. Or
I do think if you're like first approaching it, it starts slow. And I also think like Noid being one of the hits, it's one of the less interesting tracks, like you said. Like the reason I didn't really vibe with it first was like it's very forward with what it's saying.
Right.
And I didn't fully see what was super special about Yves Tumor's production. And,
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I'm a simpleton. I hear that's the one that has the title in it. And so I'm like, safe in the hands of love is where I feel the pressure. And so I'm like, oh, well, that's it then. That's the song that encapsulates everything. And it is. It is. It's a full experience, this album.
Yeah, definitely.
I like the last track.
I did too. Yeah, I liked that track. I just feel like it builds. It's like your classic like rising action. It climaxes and then it trails off a little bit. Yeah, not in a bad way.
It's like a really sort of big instrumental kind of ending. It's really building, and then it ends with whatever that sample is from that "Let me be your angel," which like cuts off really abruptly, but it's a cool way to segue out of the album, I think. I don't know if you.
I thought it was cool. Yeah,
It is
I didn't really clock the sample or anything. But.
Cool is a good descriptor. So my first listen, as I was saying, was like the most gratifying one because of the surprise factor and going on the journey.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like there was the fourth listen. That was the time where I really was able to see it as the whole, right? But now, after that, it's like I can't have that same thrill that I had the first time through because I just lack the ability to see the parts anymore, right? I can only see the whole now. And that could change, but I don't know if that's something you experienced as well. Or you said before we started recording that was your best time with it.
Yeah, this was like my third listen. Yeah. I would say I haven't come back to it in full many times. But yeah, that was my most gratifying. I think because I was focused on like the build of the album, and I think that's one of the most interesting parts about it is it starts slow. Like most albums want to give you the hits immediately, and this definitely does not do that. It starts slow, ambient, and then like I don't know. It feels like I feel like because I wasn't focused on finding like tracks I liked because I already knew which ones I really connected with. I wasn't like unsure at all. I had total faith in like that this album would be good. I was just
faith
focused.
in nothing except in salvation or whatever that first track is called.
What is it called? Faith in nothing except salvation.
Odd titles and well, good titles, I would say.
Yeah.
But
I
love Heaven to a Tortured Mind as a title for an album, just kind of talking about that album. And what I want to pick your brain on is I've seen several lists recently talking about who are the most sort of influential, or not influential, but who are the artists who are like pushing music forward now, who are building the soundscape of the next generation or this next sort of movement we're going to have in all the various genres. And I've seen Yves Tumor come up on a few of those lists. I mean, do you think that, I feel like they're too outside of the mainstream to have a real impact on stuff that is like going to hit the mainstream, but I don't know.
Well, I don't know about mainstream influence, but I do think that in terms of like making rock evolve, Yves Tumor is at the front of it. They just have some of the most interesting rock songs I've ever heard that have come out in the past 6 years.
Kerosene off of Heaven to a Tortured Mind.
Oh my
incredible.
God. Yeah.
So awesome.
It's here. Let me see what. I want to open up that album so we can talk about it a little bit. Kerosene is fantastic, but I've always loved the romanticist to dream palette transition.
Yeah.
That I remember the summer I found it, I was like just mashing that repeat. That got like hundreds and hundreds of plays for me.
Yeah. What did it like show up as on your top songs?
It was my top.
It was your top.
I think Romanticist was my top.
Was Yves Tumor? Did they rank in the top 5 artists of that?
I think so, yeah. I don't actually remember where they were.
Where they positioned, but high up.
Yeah, high up.
So I found the true fan.
You did.
I found that, which is exciting stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've kind of expressed all the things I would say of, looking at this sort of campaign in its totality. This is definitely on the higher end. I think personally, I just didn't quite like connect with it enough to really push it into that like upper echelon. But I was kind of looking at where the rankings sort of are now in my head, and it was like just outside of the top 10 for me.
Oh, really?
And that's just like on a personal level, because there's been some albums that I didn't connect with personally, and I'm also like, I don't understand why this is good.
Yeah.
This I connected with enough, and I know why it's good, which gives it, a stronger position in my mind.
I feel you. Yeah. I think this is definitely one of the albums I've connected with the most. Or not this one, but Yves Tumor is one of the artists I
Yeah.
would say I've connected with the most in the past like 3 or 4 years.
Recently. Recently. But you said that the new EP from this last year wasn't the asymptomatic or the asymptomatical world,
Oh
or,
yeah. What's it? Asymptomatic?
or you would know better than I.
I don't know. I'm not great with remembering names. Yeah, the asymptotical world. Is what
Okay.
it is. I wasn't super thrilled on it. It was like, I don't know. I guess even though Yves Tumor is not like very much a storyteller,
Mm-hmm.
I do think that the lyrics were just super weak on that album. It didn't
You
it
didn't
didn't
grab.
bring me to the heart like all the other albums did, you know.
It didn't give you just that slight peek into the internal that you want
Yeah.
from an Yves Tumor album.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed.
I felt like very much an album artist. As
Yeah.
opposed to, I mean, there are tracks that you can pull out, but you gotta listen to the whole album at least that once,
Yeah.
that first time to get the full experience. So I definitely recommend it, folks.
It was
for
very
folks
good.
at home. Any final sort of thoughts?
No, I mean I think Yves Tumor is in their own lane. It's a very unique artist.
That they're
and
carving.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all. It's great. I love her. I love that person.
And Jack.
Yeah.
Anything going on in your life right
Are you
now?
going to plug something?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, follow don'tlook.studio on Instagram. We're posting music videos and short films.
Got some new stuff out.
Yeah, we've got some new stuff out. We've got new stuff coming. A couple new music videos in the next few months.
And if you're in Yves Tumor, if you're watching, this is the guy to direct your next
Yeah.
video.
Definitely.
If you'll fly out to Italy to.
Yeah, we'll fly you in. Yves Tumor.
Oh yeah, you'll
we'll
front
figure
the
it out.
you'll do
You
the
just stay
overhead
on
on
my
that one.
couch. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, Jack, I suppose I should bid you adieu
Oh, yeah.
back to
Okay.
your
Okay,
headquarters, but it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Very excited. And he left the phone.